Hello and welcome back to 996 Sal. First time in 7 years I have to make two videos in one day. I'm a bit aggravated here. First with the Gossespierre trade on my way home from the gym, and then finally a big one happened. Chychrun gets traded. A lot of talk about. Obviously, first blush, it's hard to get rid of the feeling from the Gossespierre trade. So I guess I'll start with that. Underwhelming return. I feel a third round pick in 2026 to Carolina. We got a third in 2025 for doing nothing with Patrick Kane. So, yeah, for sure the optics, the context is there. He's a UFA, so you have to trade him. Yes, I wanted the Coyotes to move on from Gossespierre. I would welcome him to re-sign, even though it's rare that players do that. The only example Coyotes have is Vermette from a really long time ago. But, we got Gossespierre for free, and we're even paid to take him in a second round pick and third round pick. So obviously, yes, at the end of the day, any return we got from Gossespierre was gravy. But in a vacuum, it's not really a good trade. I mean, there's players traded in the past week who got incredibly better return. I was expecting a first, but that was my hope. I should say my hope was a first, but I was expecting a second round pick. It turns into a third. We'll get into why, I guess, later or right now. No money was retained on Gossespierre or Chychrun. Chychrun was $4.5 million, Gossespierre $4 million. This is kind of the first time where I think the team budget and maybe people above Bill Armstrong maybe dictating him a little bit. We really haven't seen this in a while. They got Andrew Ladd. They got Gossespierre. They were willing to spend some money. Obviously, you got to get to the cap floor, but they're willing to go above the cap floor for assets and picks back. They just did Brian Little last trade deadline for Nathan Smith, but I feel like this trade deadline, it seems a bit weird of how Bill Armstrong is making moves that is basically just focusing on money and not really on the return. So Gossespierre goes for a third round pick. I think it's a pretty underwhelming return. With all the context, yes, whatever you get is gravy, but should have been a second. It actually had to have been a second. I was hoping for first. He's a good player. He was awesome for the Coyotes. He could be a quarterback to a power play. I know Carolina's stacked on D, so Gossespierre will be like a fifth or sixth, so really won't flourish so much as an offensive D-man for Carolina. But, they don't have to pay, that they don't have to retain on Gossespierre. So when that trade happened, I was like, okay, I'll give maybe Bill Armstrong a break. Because they don't have to retain on Gossespierre, that means they could retain on Chychrun and get an even better return on Chychrun because they could retain some money because they're not retaining on Gossespierre, but they're not retaining on Chychrun either. He goes to the Ottawa Senators for first in 2023. There's a big one. It's top 5 only protected. This isn't a normal top 10 protected that we usually see. This is only top 5 protected. Right now, the Senators are in 12th last. So if the lottery or the draft was today, the Coyotes would have got a 12th overall pick. So I think Ottawa's not going to stay at 12. I actually think they'll drop. Not so far to 6, but it could happen. There's so many teams in the East battling for the playoffs. I don't expect them to make the playoffs. I don't even think Sens fans expect to make the playoffs. But you never know. Anything could happen, especially with adding Chychrun. Maybe they go on a run here. They're about 5 points off from the wild card number 2 spot. It could happen. But the frustrating part about this is we don't know what this return for Chychrun is going to be. It could be a 6 overall pick. Imagine it is a 6 overall pick and the Coyotes are picking 3rd or 4th or 5th overall to boot. This is an excellent return. No one's complaining. If anything, you might even draft Mitchkov at that position in the draft. And then this whole thing is moot and a wash, and we're all getting upset for no reason. Or the Ottawa Senators go on a run here. They go for the playoffs. Most likely will lose in the first round if they even make the playoffs, considering the juggernauts in the East have stacked up considerably. So then that turns maybe into a 17th overall pick. How do you value that? Only getting one first round pick for Chychrun, where the price was 2 firsts or a first round pick and a first top level prospect equivalent. They didn't get any prospects. They just got 3 picks out of this deal. The second round pick in 2024, which is Washington, it will turn into a first round pick if Ottawa makes the conference final this playoff coming up, which won't happen. I don't think anyone would ever make that bet, no matter what the odds are. So that's a return. It's a first and 2 seconds for Chychrun, considerably lower than the ask Bill Armstrong made public. At some points, it seemed like it was 2 firsts, and then it turned to a first and a top level prospect. They were talking with teams like the Kings, the Hurricanes, the Edmonton Oilers, so many of these other teams. And then as the days went by, those teams were making other trades. Edmonton gets Ekholm, the Kings get Gavrikov and Korpisalo, the Canes just went to Gostisbehere, and then finally the Senators were there the whole time. It's been almost a year. I know Columbus was that last draft, but Senators have been kicking around to be rumored to acquire Chychrun. So it sucks today because we don't know what this first round pick is going to be. If it's between 6 and 12, I would be extremely happy. People are saying like Edward Sale is dropping to number 10th overall in the draft. So for me, 6 to 12, at most 14. If it starts to go over 14, 14 to 18 area, maybe another first round pick would have helped. But if it's between 6 and 12, that's better than 2 picks from a highly contending divisional winner. So let's say Boston did go after Chychrun and they gave Arizona 2 first round picks in the first round. Well, if they're still as good next year, those would be like the number 28th pick and a 25 pick next year. I think I would value between 6 and 12 much better than two picks that are 25 and 28. So that's where I stand with value. It's hard to determine right now what the value is on this return. First blush, it is underwhelming, but I like the fact that it's top 5 protected and not top 10 protected. It gives us just a little bit of a chance that we could get another high draft pick in a really stacked and team changing draft. So I guess we have to wait on see what the Chychrun value is. I guess for all Coyotes fans, just hope Ottawa loses a lot of games. They're adding Chychrun, who's a really good player, but it's tough. It takes a lot of players to get acclimated. Maybe Chychrun's not happy that he's going to a team not even in the playoffs. They're still a long way from the playoffs, 5 points out, still battling. It's a big mountain to climb to reach the playoffs in the East. So maybe he's not happy. Maybe he doesn't play well. It's 20 games left. Or maybe he plays extremely well. They go to the playoffs and the return for Chychrun is even worse. So right now it's hard to, evaluate what the value is. But a bit of an underwhelming, couple of trades back to back. I think the remaining trade is Bukestad. We'll see what he goes for either tonight. Seems like Bill Armstrong, he's cooking. So it might be a tonight trade or it happens tomorrow. We'll see if there's any other trades. I said that the trade bait for the Coyotes is Gostisbehere, Chychrun, and Bukestad. I don't think they're really going to trade anyone else. No one really has value. No one's going to go grab Richie or Travis Boyd. Don't think people will go for Josh Brown, but some teams might. Vejmelka, I just don't see it happening. The team connected to Vejmelka was the Kings, and they got Korpisalo. So don't think there's going to be too many other trades other than Bukestad. There's rumors that Schmaltz, people talking about Schmaltz, but I don't think that's happening. But you never know, it could happen. So that's it. If you write your thoughts down in the comments if you're a Coyotes fan or Ottawa fan or maybe Carolina fan. What do you think? Obviously, I think those teams are extremely happy with these hauls. If Carolina gets such a good offensive defenseman for such a cheap pick, like 2026, that's 3 years from now in the third round. And then if you're an Ottawa fan, you don't think they're going to lose a lot. You think they're going to go for the playoffs and actually might get into the playoffs. So you're thinking that pick might be a 15th overall, 16th, 17th overall. Whereas from a Coyotes perspective, you're thinking Ottawa is a bad team. They're going to struggle. They got back-to-back wins against Detroit, who's also struggling. Maybe, their competition left in the season they'll lose a lot more and come down in the standings. That's what Coyotes fans are going to hope for and what they're going to expect. So, both fans of each team thinking differently, and we'll see where it goes. But yeah, a bit underwhelming, I would say. But honestly, if this pick is between 6 and 12, I'm happy no matter what. We could all go to bed safely and soundly. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.